Hi everyone. In this video, I will be demonstrating how to import data into RStudio from an Excel file or from a text file where you have missing data. And oftentimes it's the case that when you are collecting data involving a large number of variables and or cases, you'll end up with missing values in your data set. And so what you want to make sure of is that when you are importing your data into R or RStudio, that after that, when you run your analysis, you want the program to recognize the missingness on those variables. And then obviously there are various strategies for dealing with the missingness. Right now, we're just mainly focused in on the issue of helping the program to recognize that missingness. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to start with Excel. I'll open up an Excel file right here. You can see that in row 1, we have our variable names. And the remaining rows are the cases in our data set. So you'll see that for the interest variable right here, we have some missing values. These blank cells represent missingness on that particular variable for different cases in our data set. You can also see on the engage variable, there's some missingness, anxiety and achieve, and then also for gender ID right there. And so if we were to import the data as is into RStudio, then it's going to recognize those cells that have no values associated with them as missing, and it's going to assign a missing value code in the resulting data frame of NA. So that's what it's going to look like. And the NA is the value that R and RStudio uses to recognize missingness on your variable, or at least missing values in terms of a given cell in your data set. So I'm going to start out just by importing that and showing you that in action. And then from there, we're going to talk about using missing value codes and how to accommodate that in the context of importing your data. So I'm going to go under RStudio and go to session. We'll go to set working directory, choose directory. And I actually already have RStudio pointed at a directory or folder on my computer. And so I'll click on open. This is actually where the data set that we're using, where it's housed. So I'm going to click on open. And you can see that it's using the set WD command. That's just basically setting the working directory so that when I actually go in and try to import the data, rather than having to snoop through the entire, all of the different folders on my computer, it'll just take me right there when I actually do my data importation. So we'll click on File, Import Dataset, and go down to from Excel. We'll click Browse, and we'll select Reg Data Missing right there, and then Open. So you'll see that we get a preview of our data as it would appear in the resulting data frame, and basically it's going to be saved by default in the form of a tibble, it looks like. But as you can see in our data set, you can see that those cells that had missing values are going to be given NA to represent missing data. So those are just a couple on the interest variable right there. Obviously, if we scroll down a little bit further, you can see more NAs appear. And what we'll do at this point is we'll click on import. And you can see now that in our data frame, you'll see that we've got these NAs. So there's an NA up here, NA here, and so forth. And keep in mind that it's basically from this data frame that we're going to be running, or that you would be running your analyses. So oftentimes you'll be referencing the data frame and the variables within the data frame when you're carrying out your analysis. So you want the program to recognize those missing values on your variables. This particular data frame, you'll see the command that the wizard generated in order to import the data. So it just says it's the read_Excel function, and you've got this little arrow that's just a lesson sign followed by a hyphen pointing at this name right here, and this is what's been generated automatically as we're reading the data into into RStudio. So this object is going to be our data frame that contains our data. So you'll see it's reg_data_missing. That's the name that we would be referencing in the future if we were carrying out data analyses involving these variables. Now, going back to our data set here in Excel, you'll see one thing to kind of keep in mind is that these cells right here, they could reflect, yes, legitimate missing values. Maybe for whatever reason, maybe a person doesn't fill out a response on a given survey item, or maybe you can't obtain that information from a given case on a given variable. That's possible. In those cases, the missingness is basically legitimate. In other cases, though, there could be a translation problem in terms of, maybe you're collecting the data, but for whatever reason, that data did not get translated into your data set. Oftentimes this can happen, say, if you're sitting down, you're entering survey data, as you enter survey data on a large number of variables in a large number of cases, it's very easy to double tab or to use the arrow key inadvertently and skip over a cell. And so then in that particular case, the program's not going to recognize the cell with nothing in it as legitimate or kind of illegitimate missingness. It's just going to recognize missing. And so for that reason, what you might want to do is to use a missing value code. And so then if you incorporate a missing value code into your data set, then if you were to go back and screen through your data and you see a cell with a missing value, then that's a clear indication that there was some type of error that was created. Whereas in terms of, kind of that translation I was telling you about. If you see the missing value code, then that code is telling you that that's a legitimate missing value in your data set. So when you set a missing value code, generally it's a good idea to use a value that is kind of well outside the range of the observable values in your data set. So for this demonstration, I'm going to use 999 as an example. So you'll see right here, for whatever reason, it's generating a little percentage here. So I'm gonna, I've already had this issue come up before, so I'm actually just going to go back into my data set here and just kind of bear with me for a second. And I'm going to reformat everything so that now it's not registering as a percentage. So I've typed in 999 right here, and then for the remaining cells, we'll type in 999, 999. 999, whoops, don't need 4 of them, 999 here, 999 here, and so forth. Okay, so now I've typed in 999, and that's going to be my missing value code. Now, at this point, I'm going to save this, and I'll save it as reg data missing 1 right here. And we'll click save right there, and I'm actually overriding a previous version of this. So now if I was to import the data as is into RStudio, and I don't set a condition that recognizes the 999 as a missing value, then it's going to read the 999 in, and any subsequent analyses that carry out, it's going to treat it as a legitimate value, which in fact it's not. So what I need to be sure to do is to let the program know that this is a missing value. So when I go back into RStudio, I'm going to remove this, and I'll go back to File, Import Data Set right here, go back to Excel. So we're going to re-import with those missing values. So this is the data set that has the missing value. So I'll click on Open right here. Now you'll notice that by default, we've got where it says 999 right here, the 999 here, and then all of the other missing values had that code that we were using. So to get around this problem, when I'm reading the data in, down below it says NA. So down here, let me see if I can highlight this. You'll see it says NA. And by the way, too, when you're importing your data, make sure that by default, it looks like it's already checked, but make sure that this is checked as well to notify RStudio and during the import process that first row contains the variable names. So where it says NA, though, we're going to incorporate our missing value code. So I'm going to type in 999 right here. And so when I type import or press import, when I read the data in, you can see that instead of getting 999s in my data set or in my data frame, you'll see that they read as NAs right here. So that's how you can do it. So at this point, kind of we'll scroll back up just a little bit. Let me kind of move this console up just a bit. So the new data set is this one right here. This is the object that contains our data. This is basically a data frame, and you can see the command right here just says read Excel, and it's giving you the command, and it's also identifying the missing value code as being 999. So then when we read that data in here, that's what we end up with. Just to show you too, if I wanted to see the data in the console, I can just type in reg data underscore missing one right here and hit enter, and you can see this is just it's in kind of tibble format, if you will, but you can see those NAs appearing. This is the first 10 rows of the data set. So now we are accounting for that missingness. So if I run future data analyses, it's going to recognize those missing values instead of incorporating just the 999s. Just to show you what it would look like if we did not do that, I'll kind of just click back out of here again, and we'll just go back and re-import. Okay, so we'll leave everything as is. If I click on import right now, you'll see that in the this preview up here, now you can see that that our data frame contains these 999s, which again, that's not something that we want to incorporate. So just keep in mind that when you are importing your data, account for, it's a good idea to, come up with some way of representing missing values and so forth, but you have to make sure that gets communicated to RStudio when you're importing your data. Otherwise, if we left our data in this current format and we run an analysis, it's going to treat those 999s as legitimate values, and that's not something that we're going to want to do. Now, if we happen to read the data into RStudio and we have it in this format, one option obviously would be to go back and re-import the data and use that NA code and assign it in that particular approach. Another option, there is actually another one. If we didn't want to go through that, what we can do is we can use the following approach. We could type in reg underscore data underscore missing one. That's the name of our current data frame that contains the 999 values. Inside the bracket, we're going to basically be creating a condition where if we see 999, that we're going to assign those values an NA. So to do this, we'll type in the name of our data frame. Again, we'll type in reg underscore data underscore missing one. We'll type in 2 equal signs, and we'll set it equal to 999. So this is kind of a condition, and then we'll type in our arrow, which is a less than sign followed by a hyphen, and then type in NA right here. So now when I press enter, you'll see the 999s in the data set above. You'll see now they change over to NA. And so now the program's going to recognize those values as missing if we run our analysis. The other thing I'll show you too, I've also got the data stored in a text file, and you can see right here we have those cells representing missing data. So if I want to import data from there into RStudio, I can go back to import data set right here, and we'll go into from text right here, and we'll select, so it's just reg data missing right there. We'll click on open, and so it looks a little bit different from what we had before. And again, we can click on import right here, and you can see, it's just registering those missing values with the NAs and so forth. Again, we could have used the missing value codes and imported it and accounted for that if we wanted to. But this was just kind of a really quick demonstration of what happens if we, kind of use the defaults in importing the data from a text file. So at any rate, that's going to wrap up this video presentation. Be sure to check underneath the video description. I'll incorporate the Excel and text files for you to download if you want to have some additional practice. All right, so thanks for watching, and you guys have a great day.